Lady Helena stopped breathing before the ceremonial cup hit the floor. The silver goblet struck the black marble steps of the moon hall and spun twice, scattering dark red wine across the hem of her white ceremonial gown. For one impossible second, no one moved. Nearly 300 nobles, council members, guards, and pack representatives simply stared as Helena Ward folded beneath the weight of the Luna crown. Then the hall exploded. Iris Vale moved before anyone called for a healer. She set the silver pitcher aside and caught Helena's shoulder before the woman's head struck the marble. Helena's eyes were open but unfocused. Her lips were already losing color. "Give her room," Iris snapped. A guard reached for her. "I said give her room." He stopped. Iris pressed 2 fingers beneath Helena's jaw. Pulse. Fast. Weak. "Helena." No response. She leaned close enough to smell Helena's breath. Wine. Rose oil. Ceremonial incense. Nothing bitter. Nothing metallic. That was wrong. Kingbane should have left an iron and almond scent within seconds. "Hot water," Iris ordered. "Clean cloth. Now." A servant ran. Only then did Iris register the man kneeling across from her. Alpha King Caleb Thorne had caught Helena's other side before she hit the floor. He wore the black ceremonial coat reserved for the Luna choosing, silver embroidery tracing his shoulders like frost. The crown of the northern Pax rested on his dark hair, but there was nothing ceremonial left in his face. "Can you save her?" he asked. "If everyone stops touching her and lets me work." His gaze hardened at her tone, but he looked over his shoulder. Back. The circle around them moved. Helena suddenly convulsed. Iris caught her jaw, turned her head, and kept her from choking as blood appeared at the corner of her mouth. "Do not let her drink anything," Iris said. "Not water. Not antidote. Nothing. Until I know what entered her system." "Poison?" Caleb asked. "I don't know yet." A growl rolled through the hall. Iris looked up. Ash stood 10 feet away, enormous and silver gray, every muscle beneath his coat rigid. But the royal wolf was not looking at Helena. He was staring at the fallen Luna crown. It had slipped from Helena's hair and landed upside down beside the spilled wine. Ash stepped toward it. "Ash," Caleb warned. The wolf stopped, lifted his nose, and sniffed. Then his lips pulled back from his teeth. Iris remembered that. A wolf could not explain suspicion, but its instincts rarely lied. "Your Majesty." Lord Gideon Thorne stepped through the crowd with 2 royal guards. Caleb's silver-haired uncle was composed as ever, as though chaos were merely another problem waiting to be organized. One guard carried Iris's leather satchel. Her stomach tightened. "I believe this belongs to the healer," Gideon said. "It does." The guard opened it and removed dried herbs, linen, a knife, and several glass vials. Then his hand stopped. He pulled out one Iris had never seen. Clear glass. Black stopper. Dark liquid. The guard uncorked it. Even from several feet away, Iris smelled iron and bitter almond. "Kingbane." The name moved through the hall in frightened whispers. Caleb stood. The look he gave Iris was no longer the look of a man watching a healer work. It was the look of a king looking at a suspect. "That is not mine," Iris said. "It was in your bag," Gideon replied. "I can see that. You prepared Lady Helena's ceremonial wine?" "Yes." "You handled the herbs?" "Yes." "And no one else was permitted inside the preparation chamber after the final inspection." Iris looked at the satchel. She had left it alone for 10 minutes, long enough to carry fever tonic to the West Gallery after a servant came running for her. Her heart beat harder. Someone had not merely planted poison. They had prepared a story. A murmur moved through the council benches. "Val," another voice answered. "Her name is Vale?" Iris went cold. Caleb heard it. "Your full name." "Iris Val." Recognition closed something inside his expression. "Maeve Vale." "My mother." The old story spread instantly. Maeve Vale. Royal apothecary. Convicted poisoner. The woman blamed for the death of King Alaric Thorne, 15 years earlier. Caleb's father, a councilman, stood. "Your Majesty, this cannot be coincidence." "No," Iris said. "It isn't." Caleb stared at her. "What does that mean?" It means someone wanted you to know exactly who I am when you found that vial. Uncertainty crossed his face, then vanished. Take her into custody. 2 guards seized Iris by the arms. Ash lunged forward. Noted Helena. At the guards holding Iris. His growl silenced the chamber. Ash. Caleb's command cracked across the hall. The wolf stopped inches from one guard's hand but did not retreat. Ash. Move. Nothing. Hundreds watched the royal wolf refuse his alpha king. Caleb descended from the dais himself and forced Ash back. The guards pulled Iris toward the doors. Then she saw Helena being lifted onto a stretcher. The Luna crown lay forgotten beside the spilled wine. And beneath the pale hair at Helena's temple was one bright bead of blood. Not from her mouth. Not from the broken goblet. From beneath her hairline. Wait. Caleb looked at her. The poison wasn't in the wine. The council erupted. You expect me to believe that now? Caleb asked. No. Iris looked toward Helena, then the crown. I expect you to look. The guards dragged her backward. Caleb did not stop them. If Helena drank the poison, Your Majesty. The great doors began to close between them. Why is there blood in her hair? The doors slammed shut. And somewhere behind them, Ash began to howl. Iris learned quickly that the palace dungeon had been built to make time feel useless. There was no window in her cell, only a narrow vent and a torch beyond the bars. By the time footsteps finally approached, she could not tell how long had passed. Caleb came alone. He stopped outside the cell with the iron key in one hand and the vial in the other. Lady Helena is alive, he said. Iris exhaled. For now? For now. He unlocked the door but did not enter immediately. The royal physician says the symptoms are consistent with Kingbane. End of Laston. The symptoms are consistent with several compounds. He found Kingbane in her blood. That still doesn't mean she drank it. Caleb's jaw tightened. You prepared the wine. The poison was found in your satchel. Your mother was convicted of killing my father with the same substance. And that makes the evidence convenient. It makes it compelling. Iris stood from the stone bench. Compelling is not the same as complete. He entered then, closing the door behind him. Tell me what I'm missing. The smell, for one. There was no Kingbane on Helena's breath. Perhaps the wine masked it. It doesn't. You sound certain. I studied it for years. Caleb's eyes sharpened. Because of your mother? Yes. Silence settled between them. Iris continued. If Helena swallowed enough Kingbane to collapse that quickly, her breathing would have ceased before her pulse weakened. Her pupils would have constricted. They didn't. You expect me to discard a vial found in your bag because her pupils were wrong? No. I expect you to examine all the evidence as carefully as the evidence against me. No. His expression hardened, but he did not interrupt. For the first time since entering the cell, the certainty in Caleb's face shifted into something less comfortable. Who touched my satchel during the final inspection? Iris asked. The guards say no one. The guards are wrong. They were standing outside the preparation room, and I left for 10 minutes. Caleb stared at her. A servant came for fever tonic in the West Gallery, Iris said. When I returned, my satchel was where I left it. Name the servant. I don't know her name. That is not useful. It is if you ask who was assigned to the West Gallery tonight. Something flickered in his eyes. He filed that away. Good. Iris folded her arms. Now answer one question for me. Did anyone examine the Luna crown? The crown? Yes. We examined the cup, the pitcher, the wine, your satchel, and Helena's hands. So no. There was no reason to. There was blood beneath her hair. She bit her mouth when she collapsed. The blood at her mouth was separate. Caleb looked toward the corridor. Before he could answer, claws scraped across stone. Once. Twice. Then harder. Caleb closed his eyes briefly. Ash has been outside since they brought you down here. Iris looked toward the door. He hasn't eaten? How do you know that? Because if he had, he wouldn't be trying to dig through a dungeon wall. Another scrape came, followed by a low whine. Caleb opened the door. Ash sat in the corridor between 2 guards. The royal wolf rose immediately and walked toward Iris. One guard reached for his sword. Don't, Caleb said. Ash stopped in front of Iris and pressed his nose against her wrist, sniffing the herbs on her skin. Then he turned, sniffed Caleb's hand, and ignored the Kingbane vial entirely. His ears shifted toward the stairs. A distant crash echoed through the corridor. A guard shouted. Then another. Ash spun in boulder. Ash! Caleb ran after him. Iris reached the bars before remembering the cell was still open. Caleb looked back once. Stay here. That would be easier if you closed the door. He swore under his breath, returned and locked it. Iris almost smiled. The noise above grew louder, men shouting, wood breaking, claws striking stone. Then came silence. Heavy footsteps descended the stairs. Caleb appeared first, breathing hard. Behind him came 2 guards, and between them walked Ash. Something silver hung from his jaws. Iris stepped to the bars. The royal wolf crossed the corridor and dropped the object at her feet. The Luna crown hit the stone with a sharp metallic crack. One of its inner prongs had broken loose. Ash lowered his head over it and growled. Not at Iris. At the crown. Ash lowered his head over the crown and growled. Caleb stopped at the cell door. For several seconds, no one spoke. The royal wolf's warning filled the corridor. Iris crouched behind the bars. Bring it closer. One guard looked at Caleb. Do it. The guard slid the crown beneath the bars. Ash followed it until the metal touched Iris's fingertips. Lamp. Caleb took the torch from the wall and held it through the bars. Iris turned the crown slowly. The outer silver was engraved with moonvines, but the inside was functional. Narrow supports, polished edges, tiny fastening points meant to grip the hair. One support was bent. Beneath the center setting, something dark had dried along the metal. Blood, she said. Caleb's gaze sharpened. Helena's? Most likely. That proves the crown cut her. No. A normal fitting shouldn't break skin. Iris lifted the loose prong between 2 fingers. From a distance it looked decorative. Up close the tip was too narrow, too precise. She pressed her nail against the base. A tiny seam appeared. This isn't solid. Caleb crouched outside the cell. What is it? A tube. Iris twisted the prong carefully. The silver casing separated, revealing a hollow needle no longer than a grain of wheat. The guard nearest Caleb swore. Get me healer kit. You are still a prisoner, Caleb said. And Helena is still poisoned. He ordered the kit brought down. When it arrived, Iris removed a ceramic dish and a vial of pale reagent. She scraped residue from the needle, mixed it with 1 drop, and waited. The liquid turned black. Kingbane, Iris said. Caleb looked from the vial found in her satchel to the crown. The poison was in the needle. At least some of it. So the wine was clean. I told you it was. His jaw tightened, but he did not argue. Iris studied the hollow prong. The needle pierced Helena when the crown settled against her scalp. That explains the blood, and why the poison entered so quickly. Could it have killed her? Not at that dose. The corridor went still. Caleb's expression changed. Explain. Kingbane reacts differently depending on bloodline. In most people, a dose this small causes collapse, paralysis, maybe death if treatment is delayed. But alpha blood amplifies it. Caleb glanced at the needle. How much? Enough that direct contact with an open cut could stop your heart. One guard stepped backward. Caleb did not. Iris remembered the Luna choosing. Helena drank. The crown was placed. Then Caleb was supposed to bend, press his forehead to hers, and seal the bond before the court. His skin would have touched the same inner rim. The ceremony, she said. Caleb understood. I would have touched the crown. Yes. The poison was meant for me. Helena was the delivery method. For the first time since the Moon Hall, Caleb looked shaken. Then the king returned. He looked toward Ash, who had ignored the wine, ignored the vial, and chosen the crown. For the first time, Caleb seemed to understand that his wolf had been warning him from the beginning. Who could have altered it? Someone with access to the crown. Someone who understood the ritual. Someone who knew exactly how Kingbane reacts to alpha blood. His eyes met hers. And someone who needed you standing beside Helena. Caleb looked at the cell door. Some of the evidence against Iris had just broken apart. Not all of it. You're not releasing me, Iris said. Not yet. She gave a humorless laugh. At least you're consistent. You still had opportunity. I never touched the crown. No. but I need more than your word. That answer did not surprise her. Caleb rose. Ash remained beside the bars. Why are you helping me? He asked. Iris looked at him. Is that a serious question? You know what my family did to yours. My mother was executed under your father's seal, and I had you arrested under mine. Yes. Then why warn me? Iris set the crown down. Because you being wrong about me doesn't mean you deserve to die. Something in Caleb's face went still. Before he could answer, Iris picked up the loose prong again and turned it toward the light. The base was cleaner than the rest of the crown. Newer metal. Different solder line. This piece was replaced. Caleb crouched again. Recently? Very. Could any jeweler do that? Not without damaging the setting. She pointed to the seam. This was done by someone who knew royal metalwork. Caleb's eyes hardened. There was only one workshop inside the keep permitted to alter ceremonial regalia. The royal workshop. Iris met his gaze through the bars. Whoever tried to kill you didn't come from outside the palace. Ash growled softly beside her. They're already inside. The first thing Caleb did was move Iris out of the dungeon. The second was make certain no one knew he had done it. An hour after Ash brought the Luna crown to her cell, Iris was led through a servant's passage beneath the western wing, wrists free beneath a plain gray cloak. Caleb walked ahead carrying the broken crown in a cloth-lined box. Officially, Iris Vale remained confined. Unofficially, the Alpha King had made her part of an investigation into his own attempted murder. This is a poor disguise, Iris said. Caleb glanced back. You look like a kitchen maid. I look like a prisoner dressed as a kitchen maid. One problem at a time. Ash trotted between them, apparently pleased with himself. The royal workshop occupied the lowest floor of the east tower. Caleb dismissed the guards and unlocked it himself. Inside, the air smelled of coal, oil, polished silver, and cedar resin. Iris stopped. Ash did too. His nose lifted. That scent, she said. The crown smelled like this. She crossed to a workbench where ceramic bowls held waxes and binding compounds. One contained reddish-brown resin, cedar resin. It seals metal joints. Ash sniffed the bowl, then the crown box. Same carrier, Iris said. Or close enough that he thinks so. Can he track it? Assent, yes, meaning no. I know my wolf cannot explain evidence. He has made fewer mistakes than either of us. Caleb looked at her. Was that meant to be insulting? Only accurate. The corner of his mouth nearly moved. They searched the workshop records. Iris examined tools and compounds while Caleb read inventory ledgers. One page recorded a recent adjustment to the Luna crown. 3 nights ago, Caleb said. The authorization beneath it carried a careful signature. Lady Helena Ward. Iris read it twice. She sent the crown here? For a fit adjustment. That gives her access. And perhaps motive. Iris looked at him. You think Helena poisoned herself? I think I am considering what the evidence says. That sentence sounds familiar. His jaw tightened. Footsteps sounded outside. Iris slipped behind a partition as a young servant entered with polishing cloths. He froze when he saw Caleb. Where's the workshop master? Caleb asked. The boy swallowed. He hasn't returned since yesterday, Your Majesty. From where? I don't know. Find Senna. I want every gate log from the last 3 days. The servant fled. Iris stepped out. Convenient. You think he ran? I think people disappear when they know something dangerous. She reopened the crown box. Near the base of the hollow prong, a thin amber film remained. Iris scraped a trace onto glass and warmed it over a lamp. A medicinal scent rose beneath the cedar. I know this compound. Caleb moved closer. It's used in controlled release poultices. The wax softens against body heat. So the needle stayed sealed until Helena wore the crown. Yes. Pressure broke the capsule. Her skin did the rest. Caleb stared at the crown. Deliberate. Extremely. Before leaving the bench, Iris checked the underside of the crown again. A crescent of wax clung beneath the central setting. Too deliberate for accident. She pointed it out to Caleb. Whoever altered this knew exactly where Helena's skin would touch. And exactly where mine would. Iris met his eyes. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The danger was no longer theoretical. Someone inside Caleb's palace had measured the distance between ceremony and death. For the first time, Iris saw something other than suspicion in his face. Respect. Not trust. Not yet. A sharp sting touched her finger. A silver shaving had cut her skin. Caleb caught her wrist. "You're bleeding." "I noticed." He released her immediately. "Sorry." Iris wrapped the cut herself. "You studied Kingbane because of your mother," he said. "Yes. To prove she was innocent? To understand how everyone became so certain she was guilty." Caleb looked down at the ledger. "My father died in front of me." Iris said nothing. "I was 19. Everyone I trusted told me the case was clear." "And you believed them?" "Yes." She tied the linen around her finger. "Maybe they believed it too." His eyes lifted. The possibility seemed to trouble him more than blame. A knock came at the door. One of Caleb's guards entered with a sealed note. "From the infirmary. Lady Helena is awake." Caleb broke the seal. "What?" Iris asked. He handed her the message. Helena had regained consciousness and asked for Caleb immediately. Beneath that was another detail. Before the ceremony, Helena herself had ordered the Luna crown removed from secure storage and sent to the royal workshop. Iris folded the note. The woman they had nearly died trying to save was no longer only a victim. She was now the first person in the palace directly connected to the weapon. Ash rose beside them. Caleb closed the crown box. "We speak to Helena." Iris pulled up her hood. "Was that an order?" He looked at her for a beat, then corrected himself. "A request." Iris nodded. "Better." They left the workshop together. Helena Ward looked less like a future Luna than a woman who had survived being used. When Iris entered behind Caleb, Helena was propped against white pillows, her face pale beneath brushed hair. A thin bandage disappeared beneath the hairline at her right temple. 2 guards stood outside. Ash remained in the corridor. Helena's eyes went first to Caleb, then to Iris. "You brought her here?" "I did," Caleb said. Helena's mouth tightened. "The woman accused of poisoning me." Iris stopped at the foot of the bed. "Do you expect me to apologize for that?" "I expect you to understand why I'm uncomfortable." "I do. I also expect you to answer questions if you want to know who actually tried to kill you." Helena studied her for a moment, then looked at Caleb. "She always speaks to kings this way?" "Apparently." Iris almost smiled. Caleb set the cloth-lined crown box on a table and opened it. Helena's composure broke when she saw the hollow silver prong. "That was inside the crown?" "Yes," Iris said. "It pierced your scalp." Helena lifted one hand toward the bandage, but stopped before touching it. "The wine?" "Clean." Relief crossed Helena's face, followed quickly by fear. Caleb moved closer. "You ordered the crown sent to the royal workshop 3 nights before the ceremony." Helena went still. "Yes." "You told no one." "I told the jeweler." "That is not what I asked." Her gaze hardened. "The crown did not fit." Iris watched carefully. Helena continued. "During the fitting, it slipped twice." One of the attendants laughed. "By morning, half the court would have heard that the moon crown refused to stay on my head. I would not begin my life as Luna with people calling it an omen." "So you had it adjusted secretly," Iris said. "Yes." "Who suggested the workshop?" Helena hesitated. "Lady Helena," Caleb said. "Lord Gideon mentioned that royal ceremonial pieces were routinely corrected there. He said discretion would be easier if I used the palace jeweler rather than an outside craftsman." Iris and Caleb exchanged a glance. It was not proof. Recommending the royal workshop was exactly the kind of thing Gideon would do. "Did Gideon touch the crown?" Iris asked. "Not in front of me." "Did anyone else?" "My attendants, the jeweler." A page carried it away. "Name the page." "I don't remember." Caleb exhaled through his nose. Helena looked at Iris. "You think I did this to myself?" "I think someone wanted us to think you did." That answer surprised her. By midday, they found the royal jeweler. Master Orenvale was discovered in his workshop beyond the southern wall, hanging from a beam. A letter sat beneath him. It confessed everything. He claimed Helena had paid him to alter the crown so she could collapse publicly, survive, and force Caleb to complete the Luna bond out of sympathy and political pressure. The room held cedar resin, Kingbane traces, and a purse stamped with Helena's seal. Perfect evidence. Again, Caleb read it twice. This explains the crown. No, Iris said. It explains almost everything. That is exactly what worries me. He looked up. Iris walked to the body. Oren's boots hung a few inches above the floor. She examined the rope, the hands, the discoloration around his neck. At first glance, suicide, she said. And at second, she hesitated. It fit too well. He may have killed himself after realizing the plan failed. Caleb watched her. You believe that? I believe it is possible. It was the first time since Helena collapsed that Iris had said those words about evidence pointing toward guilt. They returned with the confession. By evening, the council had turned on Helena. She was placed under guard. Caleb stood over the documents while Iris reread the payment record. You defended her this morning, he said. I defended what I knew. And now? Now I know more. He leaned against the table. You are defending the truth even when it changes against someone you tried to save. The truth doesn't have to like me. Something softened in his expression. Iris looked back at the payment record. A tiny stamped mark appeared beneath the jeweler's signature. She froze. What? Caleb asked. Iris brought the page closer to the lamp. The mark was an old apothecary seal, a crescent crossed by 3 leaves. She had seen it before, hundreds of times, on the records that condemned her mother. Her thumb moved over the edge of the imprint. Then she saw the flaw. The lower leaf curved left instead of right. It was not authentic. It was the same flaw found on the forged supply authorization used against Maeve Vale 15 years ago. Iris looked up. Caleb. He heard something in her voice and straightened. This seal is forged. His eyes dropped to the page. Iris felt the past opening beneath them. Whoever built the case against Helena used the counterfeit mark used to convict my mother. The room went silent. The poisoning in the Moon Hall had not begun 3 nights ago. Someone had been telling the same lie for 15 years. The forged seal changed the shape of the investigation. By sunrise, Iris and Caleb were inside the restricted archive beneath the Western Tower, where royal records were kept behind iron doors and dust thick enough to preserve footprints. Caleb had dismissed the archivist. Ash waited outside, restless, while Iris spread 15-year-old ledgers across a long oak table. This authorization, Iris said, pointing to a faded page, was used to release Kingbane from the royal stores 3 days before your father died. Caleb leaned over her shoulder. At the bottom sat the same crescent and leaf mark. Forged. Who approved the release? He asked. Iris traced the line above it. The signature belonged to Lord Gideon Thorne. Caleb went very still. That proves nothing, he said. It proves he had administrative access. He had access to everything. He was my father's chief advisor. And after your father died, he became mine. Iris looked at him. There it was. Not evidence. Loyalty. She moved to another ledger. Gideon's name appeared again beside orders for restricted medicines, workshop expenses, and changes to ceremonial security. None of it was illegal. None of it was unusual for a man who had managed the royal household for decades. That was what made it worse. Someone who knows the system well enough to hide inside normal procedure is harder to catch than someone breaking rules, Iris said. Caleb closed the ledger. You are building a theory around your mother's death. And you are protecting yours. The words landed harder than she intended. His eyes lifted slowly. Before either could continue, the archive door opened. Lord Gideon entered, carrying a leather folio. Iris's hand stopped over the page. Gideon smiled faintly. I wondered when you would come here. Caleb straightened. You knew? I knew the old case would become relevant once the forged seal was discovered. He placed the folio on the table. Then perhaps this will save you time. Inside were reports concerning royal physician Marcus Hale, one of the few men still alive who had worked in the palace infirmary when Maeve Vale was arrested. Gideon had brought them willingly. Marcus had access to Kingbane then, he said. And now, Iris read the first page. Inventory discrepancies. Unreported withdrawals. A private debt. Enough to make suspicion easy. Too easy. She looked at Gideon. He met her gaze calmly. If you believe I arranged your mother's death, Miss Vale, say it. Caleb turned sharply toward her. Iris did not. Not yet. I believe someone used your authority. Then find them. Gideon nodded once to Caleb and left. The door closed. Caleb exhaled. You see conspiracy because you need one. Iris stared at him. No. I see a man who walked into a locked archive carrying the exact suspect we needed 5 minutes after we found his name. He has protected this family since before I could read. That does not make him innocent. It does not make him guilty. Then investigate him. Caleb's silence answered. By afternoon, the palace was whispering. Someone had leaked Iris's identity, her mother's conviction, and the fact that Caleb had secretly removed her from the dungeon. Council members gathered in the Moon Hall demanding an explanation. Iris stood behind a side door while voices rose beyond it. She is manipulating you. She is the poisoner's daughter. She has compromised the investigation. Then Gideon's voice cut through the room. Enough. Silence followed. Iris Vale has not been convicted of anything, Gideon said. The kingdom will not repeat old mistakes merely because fear makes certainty convenient. Iris felt cold. He was defending her. Publicly. Perfectly. Caleb entered the side chamber minutes later. His face told her the decision before he spoke. The council knows you are working with me. And? I am removing you from the investigation. Iris stared at him. You found Gideon's name in the records, and this is your response? This is about keeping you alive. No. It is about keeping your kingdom calm. You will return to your village at dawn under guard, while Gideon remains here. While I investigate him without you becoming a target. She laughed once, without humor. You still do not understand. I understand exactly what this looks like. That is the problem. You always understand what things look like. His expression hardened. Iris. No, if you believed me, you would say so where they could hear you. Caleb looked toward the Moon Hall. She saw the conflict. Then he opened the door. The council fell silent. Caleb stepped into the hall. Iris Vale has not been exonerated, he announced. She is removed from this investigation, and will leave the palace at dawn. The words spread across the room like another sentence. Iris felt something inside her close. Later, alone in the chamber assigned to her, she packed her healer kit in silence. Ash scratched once at the door outside. Then the latch moved. Iris turned. A figure in a servant's cloak slipped inside. The scent reached her first. Bitter lavender, sleepwort, and something metallic beneath it. Before she could speak, a silver needle flashed toward her throat. The needle missed Iris's throat by less than an inch. She twisted sideways, caught the attacker's wrist, and slammed it against the table. The needle skittered across the floor. Bitter lavender flooded the room. Sleepwort. Not poison. Sedative. The figure drove a shoulder into her chest and sent her backward into the bed frame. Pain flashed through her ribs. Iris reached for the healer's kit, but the attacker kicked it away. Hold still. A man's voice hissed beneath the hood. Iris stared at the needle. Then she let her knees buckle. The attacker hesitated. She sagged against the wall, breathing shallowly, eyelids half closed. Too late, she whispered. He stepped closer. That was what she needed. Iris snatched cleansing alcohol from the washstand and threw it into his face. He recoiled. Before he recovered, she grabbed powdered fever root from her scattered kit and struck it against his eyes. He screamed. Irisran. She reached the corridor as 2 guards rounded the corner. Behind her, the attacker stumbled through the doorway, one hand over his face. Stop him! The first guard drew his sword. The attacker moved faster. Eblil flashel. The guard blocked once, then drove his sword forward. The man collapsed. Wait! Iris dropped beside him. Blood spread beneath his body too quickly. She pulled back the hood. She did not know his face. Who sent you? His lips moved. No sound came. Then his eyes emptied. The second guard looked from the corpse to Iris's belongings. What happened? Before she could answer, footsteps thundered down the corridor. Lord Gideon arrived first. His gaze took in the dead man, the needle, and Iris. Miss Vale? He tried to drug me. Gideon looked at the body. Or you were attempting to escape and he stopped you. Iris stared at him. Within 20 minutes, that version was moving through the palace. By dawn, the council had been told Iris attacked a servant and tried to flee. Caleb did not believe it. She saw that when he entered her chamber, but belief no longer mattered enough. The escort leaves now, he said. You're still sending me away. I'm getting you out before the council decides imprisonment is safer. And Gideon? Under observation. That is not the same as stopping him. Caleb's jaw tightened. I know. For one moment, neither spoke. Ash stood behind him, blocking the doorway. Caleb looked down. Ash, stay. The wolf did not move. Ash. A guard finally closed a gate between them, and Ash struck the iron with his paws as Iris was taken toward the stables. She did not look back at Caleb. The escort consisted of 4 riders. They were less than 2 miles from the palace when the first arrow struck. It buried itself in the throat of the rider beside Iris. The second horse screamed and went down. Trees! Someone shouted. Men rushed from both sides of the road. This was no arrest. They had come to kill her. Iris slid from the saddle as a blade cut through the space where her ribs had been. She hit the ground, rolled beneath the horse, and grabbed the dead rider's knife. Steel rang around her. One guard fell, then another. Iris backed toward the trees. A masked attacker followed. You should have stayed in your cell. He raised his sword. A gray shape exploded from the undergrowth. Ash struck him in the chest hard enough to lift him off his feet. The sword vanished into the snow. The wolf stood over the man, teeth at his throat, until Iris said, Ash. He looked at her. For the first time since the Moon Hall, he obeyed someone immediately. The attacker crawled backward. Iris searched his belt for anything that could identify him. Her fingers closed around black wax wrapped in cloth. A seal. A thorned branch beneath a crescent moon. She had seen it on private correspondence in the archive. Gideon's household. The attacker saw recognition on her face. He lunged for the knife. Ash moved first. When it was over, the forest became quiet. Iris sat against a pine, the seal in her palm. It was evidence, but not enough. Gideon could say it had been stolen, planted, forged. Exactly what everyone had said about her. Through the trees, the palace towers were barely visible. She could ride south, disappear. Caleb had chosen wrong when it mattered. Maybe he deserved the consequences. Then she remembered the hollow needle, the ceremony. Kingbane. Gideon had failed once. He would not stop. Iris stood. Ash watched her. Your king didn't believe me. The wolf's ears shifted. That doesn't mean I let him die. She turned toward the palace. Ash suddenly lowered his nose to the wax seal in her hand. He sniffed once, then again, and ran north. Ash! The wolf vanished between the pines. Iris followed. For nearly half a mile, he tracked the scent deeper into royal hunting land until the trees opened around a ruined stone lodge. Its windows were boarded. Its chimney was cold. Ash stopped at the door and growled. Iris looked at Gideon's seal, then at the abandoned royal hunting lodge. For the first time since leaving the palace, Iris felt no fear. Only the cold certainty that someone had buried answers inside that lodge. Whatever had begun 15 years ago had left a trail, and Ash had just found where it ended. The hunting lodge had been abandoned long enough for winter to claim it. Snow had blown through a cracked shutter and gathered beneath the window. Dust coated the tables. A rusted hunting spear still hung above the stone hearth. But Ash ignored all of it. He crossed the room with his nose low, following the scent of Gideon's wax seal toward a cabinet built into the far wall. Iris tested the doors. Locked. Ash scratched once at the floorboards beside it. Of course, she muttered. She knelt and found a narrow iron ring beneath the dust. When she pulled, a section of flooring lifted, revealing stone steps descending into darkness. The air below smelled wrong. Not decay. Medicine. Jedarisen. Alcohol. And the sharp metallic trace of Kingbane. Iris took a lamp from the lodge, lit it, and descended. The hidden room was small but carefully organized. Shelves lined 3 walls. Glass vials sat behind wire doors. Bundles of old documents had been tied with black cord. On a work table lay 3 unfinished silver prongs identical to the one hidden inside Helena's Luna crown. Iris stopped breathing for a moment. Ash growled. I know. She opened the nearest cabinet. Kingbane. Enough to kill an alpha twice over. Beside it were forged apothecary seals, old and new, including the crescent and 3-leaf mark that had condemned Maeve Vale 15 years earlier. Iris's hands went cold. Someone had not simply copied her mother's seal once. They had kept the tool. She searched the shelves faster. Old inventory pages. Palace workshop orders. lists of medicines, payments to men whose names she did not recognize. Then she found a leather medicine case. MV had been burned into the corner. Her mother's initials. Iris stood perfectly still. She had not seen that case since she was 9 years old. Inside were dried herbs turned brittle with age, a broken glass dropper, and a thin notebook wrapped in linen. Maeve's handwriting filled the first page. Iris nearly sat down. Instead, she forced herself to read. The entries were incomplete. Some pages had been torn away. Others contained only doses, dates, and patient observations. Then a sentence stopped her. GT changed the king's tonic again. Claims the physician approved it. He did not. Iris turned the page. 3 days later. Alaric weaker. Pulse irregular. Metallic odor beneath the wintergreen. I confronted GT. He told me I was imagining patterns because grief makes women foolish. Another page. If anything happens to me, check the restricted stores. The authorization seals are wrong. That was all. Nah, confession. No need answer. Just fragments. But Iris no longer needed one. She spread the old records beside the current workshop orders. The same forged seal defect. The same cedar-based carrier. The same restricted Kingbane supply. And Gideon's administrative authorization appearing everywhere without ever appearing guilty. He had hidden inside procedure for 15 years. Maeve had discovered it. So he had made her the poisoner. Iris closed her eyes. For years she had imagined proving her mother innocent would feel like relief. It did not. It felt like rage arriving late. Ash nudged her hand. I'm all right. She wasn't. But there was no time to be anything else. At the bottom of the medicine case, she found a folded letter bearing Caleb's seal. It was dated 12 years earlier. The handwriting was younger, less controlled. I write James 1. I request that Maeve Vale's conviction be reviewed. Certain inconsistencies in the medical record remain unresolved. Across the bottom, in another hand, someone had written, reviewed. No grounds to reopen. Gideon Thorne. Iris stared at the signature. Caleb had questioned the case once. Gideon had closed the door. That did not erase what Caleb had done to her, but it changed the shape of the wound. A sudden clink came from behind her. Ash had taken one of the counterfeit crown prongs from the work table. Yes, Iris whispered. Physical proof. Old proof tied to new. She gathered the journal, the forged seal tool, the prong, and the records into her satchel. Then she found the final page on the table. A ceremonial schedule. The rescheduled Luna choosing was marked for the following evening. Iris exhaled. They still had time. She and Ash left the lodge at a run. By the time the palace towers appeared through the trees, bells began ringing. Not alarm bells. Ceremonial bells. Iris slowed. Banners had been raised over the moon hall. Guests were already arriving through the eastern gate. Her stomach dropped. No. Ash broke into a sprint. Iris followed, gripping the evidence against her chest. The Luna choosing was not tomorrow. Gideon had moved it forward. And somewhere inside the moon hall, Caleb was already standing before the altar, with the replacement crown waiting in his hands. There would be no second chance. Iris reached the moon hall as the final ceremonial hymn began. The great doors were already closing. Stop! 2 guards turned. Ash hit the doors first. The royal wolf drove his shoulder into the narrowing gap, forcing one side back. Gasps swept through the hall as Iris stumbled in behind him, breathless, snow melting across her cloak. Every face turned. Caleb stood at the altar. Helena was beside him, pale but upright, wearing no crown yet. Lord Gideon stood 1 step below them, and in Caleb's hands rested the replacement Luna crown. Don't touch it, Iris said. A dozen guards moved toward her. Gideon's expression barely changed. She is a fugitive, he said. She attacked palace servants, escaped custody, and now interrupts the Luna choosing. I was attacked. Convenient. Caleb stared at her across the hall. Then Gideon spoke quietly. Your Majesty, the evidence is clear. Ash walked past the guards and crossed the marble floor. Not to Caleb. To Iris. The wolf sat beside her. Silence swallowed the room. The entire court seemed to stop breathing with her. Caleb looked at Ash, then at Iris. What do you need? The question hit harder than an apology. 5 minutes. You have them. Gideon turned. Caleb. 5 minutes. Iris opened her satchel. She placed Maeve's journal, the forged seal tool, and the counterfeit crown prong on the nearest table. Lady Helena, Iris said. Show them the scar. Helena hesitated, then lifted her hair. A thin red mark remained beneath her temple. The poison entered through the first crown, Iris said. Not the wine. She held up the hollow prong Ash had brought from the dungeon. This needle delivered Kingbane into Helena's blood. Murmurs spread. Iris picked up the counterfeit prong from the hunting lodge. This came from a hidden workshop in the old royal hunting lodge. Gideon's eyes sharpened. Anyone could have placed it there. True. Iris turned to Caleb. That is why I brought this. She pressed the old counterfeit apothecary seal into wax beside the mark on the current workshop order. The same defect appeared. One lower leaf curved left. The same forged seal was used to frame my mother 15 years ago. Caleb looked at Gideon. Gideon remained composed. A forged seal proves forgery, not authorship. I agree. Iris lifted the replacement crown. A guard reached forward, but Caleb stopped him. Iris examined the inside. Then she deliberately lied. The needle is hidden in the left rear prong. Gideon answered before anyone else could. No, it's beneath the center stone. The hall went silent. Gideon froze. Iris looked at him. I never said there was a needle beneath the center stone. Caleb's face emptied of everything but understanding. Helena stepped away from the altar. Gideon moved first. His hand disappeared inside his coat and came out holding a small black vial. Iris recognized Kingbane immediately. Caleb. She seized the ceremonial cloak beside the altar and snapped it across Gideon's wrist. The vial flew. It shattered harmlessly against the marble. Ash lunged. Gideon staggered backward, drew a knife, and turned toward Iris. Caleb stepped between them. Steel flashed. Iris grabbed the Luna crown by its chain, wrapped it around Gideon's knife wrist, and pulled hard. His arm twisted. Caleb struck the blade away. The guards finally moved. Within seconds, Gideon was on his knees. Caleb stood over the man who had raised him. Did Maeve Vale poison my father? Gideon said nothing. He did not need to. The records on the table were enough. Caleb turned toward Iris. Hundreds watched him. Your mother died innocent, he said. Iris could not breathe. And I nearly let the same lie destroy her daughter. He crossed the hall. The guards still held iron restraints meant for Iris. Caleb took the key from one of them. Then the Alpha King went down on one knee before her. He unlocked the chain himself. The metal fell to the marble between them. No one spoke. Caleb looked up at Iris. For the first time, there was no command in his voice. Only truth. I was wrong. Ash stood beside them. And this time, the king finally understood what his wolf had known from the beginning. Justice moved more slowly than accusation. Gideon Thorne was stripped of his title within 3 days. The council opened the old records, compared the forged seals, recovered the hidden stores beneath the hunting lodge, and questioned everyone tied to his household. By the end of the week, the truth had become impossible to bury. Maeve Vale had not poisoned King Alaric. She had tried to save him. Her name was restored to the royal record. The judgment that condemned her was formally overturned. Iris stood alone in the archive when the corrected document was placed before her. For 15 years, she had imagined this moment. She had imagined relief. Instead, she felt the weight of everything the paper could not return. Her mother would not walk through the door. No decree could give back the years Iris had spent being watched, whispered about, or measured against a crime that had never been real. Caleb found her there but did not speak immediately. Eventually, Iris closed the ledger. You fixed the record, she said. I corrected what should never have been written. That is not the same as fixing it. No. His answer came without defense. That mattered. Helena recovered fully. 2 days after Gideon's arrest, she stood before the council and withdrew from the Luna choosing. I will not become Luna because fear makes the kingdom desperate for a symbol, she said. And I will not stand beside a king who should be allowed to choose with a clear mind. She looked toward Iris once before leaving. There was no friendship between them yet, but there was respect. Perhaps that was enough. Caleb did not announce another Luna choosing. Instead, he called Iris into his study and offered her the position of royal apothecary. She refused. His eyebrows lifted. You did not let me finish. You offered me a title after your kingdom tried to execute me. That sounds dangerously close to guilt. A faint smile touched his mouth. Then allow me to finish. He placed a stack of infirmary reports on the desk. I want you to rebuild the medical system. Iris looked down. Independent poison reviews. Separate evidence custody. Healers allowed to challenge royal physicians without punishment. No conviction based on one laboratory seal. Her eyes moved back to his. That is not a ceremonial position. No. That is authority. Yes. And when I disagree with you, I assume I will hear about it. Frequently. I have survived worse. She accepted. 3 weeks later, Iris visited the memorial stone that now carried Maeve Vale's restored name. Snow had begun melting around its base. Caleb stood several paces behind her. He did not apologize again. More importantly, he had stopped expecting apology to erase consequence. Iris touched her mother's name once, then stepped away. Ash waited outside the palace garden that evening, stretched across the path as though he owned it. Caleb stood beside him without crown or ceremonial coat. You summoned me, Iris said. I asked you to come. Improvement. I am practicing. She stopped before him. For once, the Alpha King looked uncertain. The kingdom may decide it wants you beside me, he said. I do not care what the kingdom wants. Neither do I, not about this. He glanced at Ash. The wolf thumped his tail once. Caleb sighed. He has made his opinion embarrassingly clear. Iris smiled. Caleb looked at her. Then did something no king had ever done with Iris Vale. He asked, May I court you? She let the silence stretch. You can start by learning to believe me before your wolf does. That may take practice. Then practice. Caleb held out his hand. He did not pull her closer. He did not claim her. He waited. Iris looked at the hand of the man who had once ordered her chained, then at the man who had later knelt to remove those chains before his kingdom. They were the same man. That was what made the choice matter. She placed her hand in his. Ash rose and walked between them as they left the garden. The wolf had chosen her first. The king had needed time to become worthy of choosing her second.